Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are diving into one of the most influential critical works in the study of fiction, that is, Aspects of the Novel, and it has been written by E.M. Forster. First of all, we will have a brief introduction about the book. This book was first delivered as a series of lectures at Trinity College, Cambridge in 1927, and it is not your typical academic critique. Instead, Forster takes us on a thoughtful, sometimes witty, and refreshingly informal journey through the art of novel writing. What makes a novel work? What winds the reader to the characters? And how do authors manipulate time, plot, and perspective? Forster explores all these questions and more through 7 key aspects, that is, story, characters, plot, fantasy, prophecy, pattern, and rhythm. Whether you are a literature student, an aspiring writer, or simply a lover of novels, this book will change the way you read and think about fiction. So, stay tuned with us as we review, summarize, and analyze each aspect in depth and discover why A.M. Forster remains a timeless voice in literary criticism. Now, let us know something about the author. Who is E.M. Forster? Edward Morgan Forster. He was a renowned British novelist, essayist, and literary critic born in 1879. He is best known for his novels such as A Room with a View, Howard's End, and A Passage to India, which explore themes of class, human connection, and the conflict between liberalism and conservatism in early 20th century England. Forster's writing is marked by deep humanism, wit, and a keen understanding of social dynamics. Apart from fiction, he made a significant contribution to literary criticism, especially with Aspects of the Novel, which was published in 1927 and which we are going to discuss in this lecture only. And in this particular work, he discussed the fundamental elements of fiction in a conversational and accessible style. He died in 1970, leaving behind a legacy that continues to influence readers, critics, and writers around the world. He also advocated for humanism, liberal values, and artistic freedom. Now let us start discussing the book in itself. Now let's talk about the first aspect Forster discusses, that is, story. Forster defines story simply as a narrative of events arranged in their time sequence. It's all about what happens next. In fact, he says the story appeals to a primitive human curiosity. We read because we want to know how events unfold. To explain, Forster gives an example. The king died and then the queen died. That's a story. But if you say the king died and then the queen died of grief, now you have a plot. So, while story focuses on chronology, plot introduces cause and effect. Forster also notes that although story is the backbone of a novel, it's only the starting point. A great novel builds on the story by adding character, depth, and meaning. So yes, story is essential, but it's just the first step in the art of the novel. Moving on to the second aspect Forster talks about, that is people, or what we commonly call characters. Forster makes a key distinction between two types of characters, flat characters and round characters. Flat characters are simple, one-dimensional, and often built around a single idea or quality. Think of them as the characters you instantly recognize and understand. They don't surprise us. Forster says they are useful for comic or sporting roles, and they stick in the reader's memory because they are so clear-cut. On the other hand, round characters are more complex and lifelike. They grow, change, and surprise us, just like real people. Forster praises novelists who can create such characters as they give depth and realism to the novel. He also emphasizes that good fiction should balance both types. While too many flat characters can make a novel feel shallow, too many round ones can make it overwhelming or confusing. So in short, characters or people are the soul of the novel. Through them, we connect emotionally with the story. Now let's talk about the third aspect Forster discusses, that is plot. Forster defines plot as a narrative of events with an emphasis on causality. He contrasts it with story, which is just a sequence of events. The king died and then the queen died. That's a story. But if we say the king died and then the queen died of grief, now we have a plot because there's a cause and effect relationship between the two events. Plot for Forster is what makes us curious, not just about what happens, but why it happens. It introduces tension, conflict, and character development. It's about motivation, consequence, and connection. He believes that a strong plot is one where the actions of characters feel believable and meaningful, not just random. The plot also helps create suspense. It makes us want to keep reading. In short, plot is the architectural framework of the novel. It turns a simple series of events into a purposeful and emotionally engaging experience. Let's move on to another key aspect in Foster's discussion, that is fantasy. Foster describes fantasy as the insertion of the impossible into fiction. It's where the novelist gives themselves creative freedom, departing from realism to explore ideas, imagery, and situations that could never happen in everyday life. He argues that fantasy requires a kind of suspension of disbelief, but it also opens up a rich space for symbolism, metaphor, and imagination. Take the works of Lawrence Stern, especially Tristram Shandy. Stern's novel is full of digressions, playful interruptions, and bizarre narrative twists. It doesn't follow a logical or realistic structure, but that's the point. Through fantasy and unconventional storytelling, Stern breaks the fourth wall and makes us rethink how novels can be constructed. Or consider Henry Fielding, particularly in Joseph Andrews or Tom Jones. While rooted in realism and satire, Fielding introduces exaggerated scenarios and characters that stretch believability, not for absurdity's sake, but to sharpen his commentary on society. These comic elements lean into fantasy and contribute to a broader literary vision. Foster sees this use of fantasy not as escapism but as a powerful literary tool, a way for authors to challenge convention, explore deeper truths, and sometimes just play with form. In Foster's view, when used effectively, fantasy doesn't detract from a novel, it enriches it, bringing delight, surprise, and even philosophical depth. Now let's explore one of the most profound and challenging aspects E.M. Foster discusses in Aspects of the Novel, that is prophecy. Foster doesn't mean prophecy in the sense of predicting the future. Instead, he uses it to describe a universal or spiritual quality in some novels, a voice that rises above character and plot to address timeless human truths. It's when a novelist speaks with moral seriousness or a visionary tone, connecting the individual story to something larger than itself. According to Foster, authors like Dostoevsky and Herman Melville embody this prophetic voice. Think of The Brothers Karamazov or Moby Dick. These novels are not just about characters or events, they delve into questions of faith, evil, justice, and the meaning of existence. They move us not because of technical perfection, but because of their emotional and philosophical depth. Foster believes this kind of writing demands a different kind of reading. We don't read prophetic novels just for entertainment, we read them for insight and awakening. He acknowledges that prophecy is risky, it can sometimes feel overbearing or obscure, but when it works, it elevates fiction into something timeless, giving the novel a resonance that goes beyond its immediate narrative. In short, prophetic novels have a voice behind the voice, a deeper calling that invites us to confront the mysteries of life, death, and the soul. Foster calls this the song of the novelist, transcending the plot and characters. Let's now move on to the next literary aspect, that is pattern. Foster introduces pattern as the aesthetic or formal structure that gives a novel shape. It's what holds the story together, like the design in a Persian carpet, a visual metaphor Foster uses to suggest the interconnectedness and deliberate arrangement within a novel. He points out that some writers like Henry James are especially concerned with pattern. Their novels are carefully constructed, symmetrical, and often tightly plotted, with everything placed intentionally to form a unified design. This appeals to readers who enjoy a sense of valence and literary architecture. However, Foster also warns that if a novelist becomes too obsessed with pattern, the novel can lose its human element. The characters may feel like mere puppets, moved around to satisfy structure rather than expressing genuine life. He cites Anatole France's The Revolt of the Angels as an example where the pattern is so visible that the characters seem more like ideas than people. In essence, pattern is valuable. It gives order, cohesion, and beauty to a novel. But Foster insists it should never overshadow the emotional truth or vitality of the characters and the story. The key is valence. A good novel uses pattern to enhance meaning, not to imprison it. Now we come to the final aspect discussed by A.M. Forster in aspects of the novel, rhythm. By rhythm, Forster doesn't mean meter or poetic structure. Instead, he refers to the repetitive patterns of meaning, emotion, or imagery that echo throughout a novel, the emotional and thematic resonance that gives a novel its depth and continuity. He compares rhythm in fiction to the musical repetition of themes. These recurring motifs help the reader feel a sense of coherence and emotional accumulation as the novel progresses. It might be a phrase, a gesture, a scene type, or even a recurring idea that gains weight each time it appears. Forster emphasizes that rhythm gives a novel a sense of expansion, not just linear progress, but circular depth. For instance, in Search of Lost Time by Proust, rhythm is seen in the way memory and emotion are revisited and deepened. Importantly, rhythm contributes to the artistic unity of the novel, much like a refrain in music. It binds the parts together, not just logically, but emotionally. But as with pattern, Forster warns that rhythm must arise organically, not forced. If it's too mechanical, it can feel artificial or melodramatic. In short, rhythm is the subtle heartbeat of a novel. It's not always obvious, but it's what often makes a novel linger in the reader's mind long after the final page is turned. And that brings us to the end of our exploration of E.M. Forster's aspects of the novel. To quickly recap, Forster identified 7 key aspects that shape every novel: story, characters, plot, fantasy, prophecy, pattern, and rhythm. Each of these offers a unique lens through which we can understand how novels are crafted and how they connect with readers on structural, emotional, and philosophical levels. What makes aspects of the novel so timeless is its balance between literary analysis and conversational insight. Forster doesn't reduce novels to formulas. Instead, he encourages us to see them as living, breathing forms of art that express both individual creativity and universal truths. Whether you are a literature student, an aspiring writer, or simply someone who loves reading novels, this book reminds us to read more attentively, to listen for rhythm, to trace patterns, to engage with characters, and to remain open to the deeper prophecies a novel might be trying to reveal. If you found this breakdown useful, do like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which of the 7 aspects do you find most intriguing as a reader or writer. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep reading and keep thinking deeply about what you read. I'm leaving you some questions for discussions, and these are: which of Forster's aspects do you find most applicable to today's fiction? Can a modern novel survive without a strong plot or characters? How might Forster's ideas change when applied to postmodern or non-Western fiction? Kindly share your views in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching the video. Have a great day.